Today, I found another film that has helped many people overcome their struggles. If you feel that your situation isn't right, don't hesitate to watch this film all the way through. It could truly help you earn a massive fortune. Because his family was so poor, Red dropped out of school at 15 to work delivering ice blocks. Besides the hard work every day, what he had to endure most was the humiliation from the wealthy kids his age. Their contempt made him feel awkward and ashamed. When other 15-year-olds had nice cars and were surrounded by beautiful girls, he could only do jobs that were both dirty and tiring. Although he was very angry, facing the huge gap with reality, Red was still powerless. While he was feeling resentful, a torn newspaper lying in a patch of weeds caught his attention. It featured the legendary story of the billionaire Andrew. He had dropped out of school at 15, endured much discrimination and humiliation, but eventually became a billionaire through his own efforts. This one commonality filled Red with passion. He swore that he would be as successful as Andrew. Returning to his empty house, he immediately told his father about his thoughts. He thought he was the next Andrew and would definitely become a billionaire in the future. But his father was extremely displeased and then threw a bucket of cold water on him. "You will never have money. You will become one type of person, and that is the lower class. Sorry, I was only taught that way, so I can only teach you the same." His father's criticism left Red deeply disappointed. He obviously didn't dare to argue back, but a wave of resentment rose within him. In the evening, looking at his bedridden, sick mother, Red's desire for success grew even stronger. To not be confined in this cramped family, he made a very important decision to leave home. Although he didn't know where he would go next, at that moment, he was very clear. One less mouth to feed could save money for his mother's medicine. What did his father say? "Whatever, I don't believe I'm fated to be poor. I know my opportunity is waiting for me. The next time you see me, Dad, I will definitely be a rich man." At this moment, Red had only one belief. "When I return, I will definitely be a millionaire." But at that time, he couldn't know that this farewell would be the last time he saw his mother. With the help of a colored man, Red was lucky enough to climb onto a train heading far away. After a day and a night of travel, they passed through a remote town in Texas. The colored man said nothing and jumped off the train. When Red hesitated to jump off after him, he could no longer see the man's figure. Not knowing where to go, he could only follow the passersby and arrived at a nearby farm. Luckily, the owner here was hiring workers. To have a place to stay, Red had to try his best to show his desire for the job. The owner immediately laughed at Red. He really liked energetic people and finally let Red stay. The work on the farm was driving posts, a strenuous job. Clearly, Red's frail body was not suitable. The posts he drove were either loose or would fall over with a light push. But in his bones, Red had an unyielding spirit to be able to complete the same workload as the others. When everyone else rested, he was still trying to reinforce the posts. The other young man, seeing Red's effort, was very impressed and brought him some water to quench his thirst. Being of the same age, their relationship quickly grew close. Through conversation, Red learned that Gus was originally from a wealthy family. But 2 years ago, due to the economic depression, the bank had repossessed his family's land. Gus's current dream was to restore his ancestors' legacy and then earn money to buy back that bank. The two young men, of the same age and with the same lofty dreams, formed a strange bond at that moment. In the evening, watching the workers playing cards, Red fell into deep thought. He understood that being an employee had no future, just like these workers, in their dozens of years old, but still just scraping by on a meager salary. So Red decisively went to the farm owner and asked him how he became successful. The owner didn't refuse. He gestured for Red to sit down and slowly revealed his secret to getting rich. Success depends on many factors. You must have all of them. The most important thing is not to be a follower, but to be a leader. The owner's words made Red ponder, and he immediately thought of an opportunity to prove himself. He proposed to the owner that if he could finish the work ahead of schedule, could the money saved be given to him as a bonus? "I appreciate you, kid, but you won't be able to do it." The next day, when the workers woke up, they couldn't find Red. Everyone's first reaction was that he had run away. But when they arrived at the work site, they discovered Red had been working there all night. Not only that, he had also figured out a faster way to work. Usually, everyone worked individually, but this time Red proposed that everyone support each other. 6 people were divided into 2 groups, each group of 3 working in an assembly line. This method not only improved efficiency, but also helped them get paid sooner. Thanks to his arrangement, a job that usually took 3 days was completed in just 1. And when it was time to pay, the owner kept his promise and gave them twice as much money as the others. Just like that, Red used his intelligence to earn the first money of his life. But he didn't rush to spend it extravagantly. Instead, he immediately sent $20 home to his mother, who needed money for medicine. While he was still thinking about where to go next, a man wearing a golden belt suddenly caught his attention. A person who could wear a golden belt must be a wealthy man. Red immediately asked him the secret to getting rich. Seeing the boy's admiration, the man said smugly, "In Texas, gold is everywhere. It's just that Red hasn't looked deep enough." The clever Red immediately understood the meaning in the man's words. "It's oil, isn't it?" Although the man just smiled without saying anything, it reinforced the thought in Red's mind as he was thinking about how to get into the oil industry. At that moment, a beautiful girl suddenly appeared in his sight, as if led by destiny. The girl also fell for the handsome Red at first sight. She not only took the initiative to greet Red, but also invited him to the school's youth dance. Being invited by a girl for the first time, Red felt insecure but didn't want to miss this opportunity. So he used the little money he had left to get a set of clean clothes and went to the dance as promised. The girl's name was Hannah, the prominent belle of the school. She was surrounded by countless rich young masters, including the very one who had once humiliated him. Despite facing such pressure, Hannah's beauty made him unable to hold back. As soon as they met, he couldn't control himself and spoke from the bottom of his heart. "I want to marry you." Hannah smiled sweetly but did not refuse. In her heart, this naive boy also made her heart flutter. After a day of blossoming feelings, the next day, Red went to the school gate again to wait for Hannah after school. But standing next to the arrogant young masters, Red looked like a country bumpkin. Faced with their mockery, he, a person who never backed down, retorted, "One day, this country bumpkin will become a billionaire." Although Hannah knew Red's billionaire dream was unrealistic, compared to that, the young master's arrogance was what she hated more. After sending the young master away, Hannah took Red to the principal's office. She thought a young man with such great ambition like Red should have a place in school. However, as soon as Hannah voiced her thought, Red immediately refused. He believed that studying was just a waste of time and that many rich people didn't waste their time on it. Furthermore, he even boasted, "As long as I want to, I can pass the entrance exam to any prestigious university." Seeing that the principal still looked down on him, Red told Hannah to give him any 5-digit arithmetic problem. In just 5 seconds, Red immediately gave the correct answer. Hannah and the principal were instantly stunned in amazement. It turned out he wasn't bluffing. Not only that, he also noticed the principal had a skin condition and the culprit was the plant next to him. The secretion from it was what caused the principal's eczema. Faced with Red's arrogant attitude, Hannah also felt a little angry. She thought that Red was always trying to be competitive. It reflected that he was hiding his inner self. He didn't trust anyone, not even Hannah. After saying that, she left in anger. But just when Hannah thought she would never see Red again, the next day Red suddenly appeared in her classroom. Hannah looked at him happily and they both smiled at each other. At that moment, an invisible love had begun to blossom between them. In the following days, Red and Hannah had more time together. Their feelings also progressed very quickly. Hannah even brought him home to play. At that age of innocent love, even just a glass of milk tea was enough to make them feel overflowing with happiness. Red used all his savings to buy a cute plastic ring. Although they weren't at the stage of discussing marriage yet, in their hearts, they had already decided that the other was the one. But just as they were dreaming of a sweet future life, the news of war suddenly broke. Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor. This meant that a war was about to break out. Although Red didn't know where Pearl Harbor was, his first thought was to enlist to protect his homeland. He secretly signed up without telling his girlfriend. Only when he was about to leave did he break the news to Hannah. Hannah was furious when she heard. She knew very well that going to the battlefield was a 9 in 10 chance of death. No matter how much she protested at that moment, Red's determination was firm. At this point, no amount of persuasion from Hannah would work. Red was resolute about going to the battlefield. Despite having 10,000 worries and attachments in her heart, Hannah could only watch helplessly as he left her. Not long after, Red went to the front lines with the main army. In the smoke-filled battlefield, countless lives vanished every second. During a mission to deliver a letter to the front, a new soldier was too timid to go. Seeing this, Red snatched the envelope and, without hesitation, took the mission. Because in his dictionary, every difficulty was an opportunity for him to advance. After that, he relied even more on his fearless spirit to excellently complete various dangerous missions in the army. In a flash, 10 years passed. After being discharged, he had accumulated a considerable fortune from his military achievements. At this time, he still hadn't forgotten his youthful dream to become a billionaire. So he used his savings to buy a drilling machine, intending to continue his path in oil. Although he was very confident, the process was full of thorns. He and his partners had dug no fewer than several hundred deep holes, but still came up with nothing. Workers kept coming and going. They all thought Red was wasting everyone's time. After a long period of failure, even Red began to lose heart. He had poured all his assets into oil exploration to the point where his family had almost nothing to eat. Every time he came home and saw his children, he felt guilty. However, the one thing that comforted him was that Hannah was always by his side, never leaving him. Only then did Red realize that for the sake of success, he seemed to have not spent time with his children for a long time. So for the first time, he played baseball with his son. The boy asked him to teach him how to throw a curveball, but Red didn't know how. Then someone must know how. What are those people called? Experts, right? His son's words seemed to awaken Red. He had only been blindly drilling for oil wells, but he himself had no knowledge of geology. If he found an oil expert, wouldn't things be much easier? So he borrowed money from everywhere to have enough to hire an oil exploration expert. Although this expert didn't look very reliable, at his wit's end, Red could only take the desperate gamble. He saw the man fumbling with a level for a while, then putting on headphones and searching around. Just when everyone thought this man was unreliable, the next second brought a surprise. At this moment, all the excitement was beyond words. They couldn't imagine Red had actually struck oil. What covered him now wasn't dirty oil stains, but the decoration for a brilliant future. From this moment on, they no longer needed to worry about money. According to their preliminary estimates, the reserves of this piece of land were at least 50 million barrels of oil, calculated at the current price of $2 per barrel. Red's billionaire dream was within reach. However, while he was still dreaming of a beautiful life, a crisis struck. Jealous that Red was drilling for oil and making a lot of money, the farm owners sued him. The reason was that their land sale did not include the rights to oil exploration. "I have evidence to prove that you tricked me out of my mineral rights." Although Red appeared very strong, the summons in his hand still made him think. Now he could only find a better lawyer, otherwise all his dreams would go up in smoke. He firmly believed that professional matters should be handled by professionals. So he immediately called the most famous law school. He wanted to find the best genius lawyer there. On the day of the trial, Red's lawyer, Wei, had just arrived when he was ridiculed by the farm owner's side in an America where black people were discriminated against everywhere. They didn't think he could do anything. Seemingly accustomed to this discrimination, Wei paid it no mind. He simply got the details of the situation from Red and immediately came up with a counter-strategy. Lawyer Wei stated that after reviewing the file, he discovered his client had purchased the land 2 years ago. The opposing side, still defiant, asked back, "So what?" Wei, unfazed, said firmly, "The contract was signed 2 years and 2 months ago. Texas law stipulates that the maximum statute of limitations for mineral rights disputes is 2 years. With just a few sentences, the opposing side's formation immediately collapsed. Before the trial even began, the opponent had already lost. This made Red immediately see him in a new light, truly worthy of being called a genius lawyer. So right then and there, Red used company shares to invite him to be a part-time legal counsel. Faced with such a great benefit, of course Wei had no reason to refuse. And just like that, with the addition of the genius lawyer, Red's business could be described as smooth sailing. In the next few short decades, he acquired one farm after another. With a unique vision and continuous development, he quickly built his own oil empire. Along with the increase in his wealth, his self-worth also soared, and he took another step closer to his billionaire dream. But as he grew older, his children also gradually grew up under the halo of a wealthy family. These children all became hedonistic playboys. Not only did they live extremely extravagantly, but every day, apart from asking for money, they had no plans for the future. They rarely saw their father at home, and on the rare occasions they did, he would use money to shoo them away. Red saw all of this, but couldn't pull himself away at the moment. The closer he got to the billionaire status, the more his ambition burned. Right now, he thought the most important thing was to go to Tulsa. He had to acquire a refinery there that was on the verge of bankruptcy. Once he got this refinery, it could be said that he had almost monopolized the entire oil industry chain in the region. At that point, he would be just one step away from achieving his billionaire goal. But what he didn't expect was that this time, the other party made him hit a wall. Due to the rapid development in recent years, his ever-increasing net worth had made Red arrogant. Especially his condescending attitude towards others had made the other party extremely uncomfortable. So the other party deliberately made things difficult. Red just thought the other party was playing hard to get, and that sooner or later, this near-bankrupt refinery would be sold to him. But what he didn't expect was that he and Wei waited for half a month in the hotel without any response. With Christmas Eve approaching, a time for family reunion, both Red and Wei started to get a little anxious. At this point, Wei really couldn't wait any longer. In his heart, family was always more important than making money. Even if Red were to dock his pay or fire him, tonight he had to go home to be with his family. After Wei left, the entire room was left with only Red. He had also thought about going home for Christmas, but this refinery was too important for his success. While he still didn't know if he could buy the refinery, the next morning there was a knock on his door. It turned out the other party had prepared the contract from the very first day Red arrived. It was just that upon seeing Red's arrogant attitude, he had wanted to extinguish his arrogance. This was just like himself 20 years ago, unwilling to suffer the slightest loss, never knowing who he was. The next day, Red's company was on the front page of major newspapers. After acquiring the refinery in Tulsa, his company had finally become a billion-dollar enterprise. This also meant that his childhood dream of being a billionaire had finally come true. At this moment, he could hardly hide the emotion in his heart. He turned his head to find someone to share it with, but looking around, he was now all alone. Joy mixed with loneliness washed over him. He hurriedly packed his things, wanting to return to his family. But right at this moment, the phone in the hotel room suddenly rang. When he picked it up, a piece of bad news left him stunned on the spot. Wei had been in a serious car accident on his way back. Not only were both of his kidneys ruptured, but his life could now only be sustained by dialysis. When he arrived at the hospital and saw his dying best friend on the hospital bed, Red finally realized that in the process of pursuing his billionaire dream, what he had lost was forever more than what he had gained. You've been with me for so long. Everything I have is thanks to you. You are my friend. Only at this moment did Red come to his senses. It turned out that kinship and family were the most precious assets in life. While checking Wei's medical records, Red suddenly discovered that his blood type was identical to his own. So a bold idea came to Red's mind. Without any hesitation, he donated one of his kidneys to Wei. This was not only a repayment to his best friend, but also a way for him to protect another kind of asset in his life. Wei told Red that he had become a billionaire. When asked how it felt, Red replied that he had always dreamed of this day. But when it became a reality, it was just that. The world still turns, but there is no one to share that joy with. Wei encouraged him, saying that Red should be proud for having fulfilled his promise. However, Red felt empty, admitting that he had more money than he could ever spend, but had lost things far more precious. To Red's despair, Wei insisted that it was not too late, but Red only responded with a helpless question. What if it is too late? He spoke of his disappointment in his children and the lost look in his wife's eyes. Wei once again encouraged Red that he could absolutely change everything. After this incident, Red finally saw his situation clearly. The value of a person's life is absolutely not determined solely by the amount of wealth, the warmth of family, the companionship of loved ones. That is the true intangible asset. The first thing Red did after being discharged from the hospital was to call all his relatives. First, he apologized to his wife and children for neglecting and not caring for them all this time. Then he announced that he would put all the company's future profits into a charitable foundation. This money would be used to help those in society who truly need it. Seeing the unhappy faces of his children, Red's disappointment was evident. He then gave each of them $10,000 and hoped they would use this money to help people in need. But the result was exactly as Red and his wife had thought. After receiving the money, the children grinned from ear to ear. They immediately ignored their father's teachings, now only calculating how to spend this huge sum of money. Seeing his children's behavior, Red and his wife became even more disappointed. Just then, the youngest son unexpectedly returned. The boy returned the money to his father, saying that he had enough money for himself and wished for this $10,000 to be put into the foundation to help those in need. Seeing his youngest son being so understanding, Red was greatly comforted. His past neglect of the family had created his children's rebellion today. He had seized every opportunity in his life, but had forgotten the easiest asset to obtain right beside him, which was kinship. Although only his youngest son passed his test this time, for him, that was the best possible ending. In the future, his youngest son would also inherit his business and continue to carry out the charitable work he had left unfinished. In real life, our lives are perhaps like the oil wells that Red drilled. You will never know if the next second will bring a stream of wealth or a desperate, depleted situation. But it is this very uncertainty that creates the charm of life. We cannot know the script of fate in advance, but we can choose our attitude towards life. Like Red's father, will you bow your head to poverty? Or like Red, will you bloom in the mud? But no matter what, wealth is ultimately fleeting. The courage forged in struggle, the kinship awakened after separations, and the dreams that illuminate the path when lost. Those are the most beautiful medals engraved in our lives when we stand at the end of the road and look back. The thing that can bring a smile to our lips has never been the numbers in a bank account, but the moments irrigated with sincerity and the seconds warmed by love. Today's story ends here. Thank you for watching. What do you think of this film? Please comment down below.